shedding, listen carefully, because the problem is rarely your shampoo. The real issue is what's missing inside your body. And today I want to talk about one powerful food that directly feeds your hair follicles and supports thicker, stronger hair growth. Naturally, most people overlook this food, yet it contains the exact building blocks your hair desperately needs. When people experience thinning hair or slow hair growth, they often focus on external solutions, but hair is built from the inside out. Hair strands are made primarily of protein, and without enough high-quality protein, the body simply does not have the raw materials needed to grow strong, thick hair. This is where eggs become incredibly powerful. Eggs provide one of the most complete and bioavailable protein sources found in nature, meaning your body doesn't have to struggle to break it down or convert it. The amino acids from eggs are absorbed efficiently and sent directly to tissues that need repair and growth, including hair follicles. What makes eggs especially unique is that they contain all the essential amino acids in the exact ratios your body requires. Hair follicles are among the most metabolically active structures in the body, and they demand a constant supply of these amino acids to produce keratin. When protein intake is insufficient or low quality, the body shifts into survival mode and redirects protein away from hair growth toward vital organs. That's when shedding increases, hair becomes thinner, and growth slows down. Eggs help prevent this by signaling abundance, allowing the body to invest nutrients into hair production rather than conservation. Another overlooked factor is protein timing and efficiency. Many people consume protein, but it's often poorly digested or inflammatory. Eggs are gentle on digestion for most individuals, especially when cooked properly, which allows amino acids to enter the bloodstream quickly. This steady supply supports the hair growth cycle, particularly the anagen phase, where hair actively grows. Without enough usable protein during this phase, hair follicles shrink and produce thinner strands. Eggs help maintain follicle size and strength by delivering consistent nutritional support. Eggs also contain specific amino acids like cysteine and methionine, which are critical for hair structure. These sulfur-containing amino acids give hair its strength, elasticity, and resilience. When sulfur intake is low, hair becomes weak, dull, and prone to breakage. This is not something you can fix with oils or conditioners because the problem originates deep within the follicle. Eggs naturally provide these amino acids in a form your body recognizes and prioritizes for hair construction. There's also an important metabolic advantage to eggs. Protein from eggs helps stabilize blood sugar and insulin levels. Elevated insulin is one of the silent contributors to hair thinning because it interferes with nutrient delivery and increases inflammation around the hair follicle. By supporting stable blood sugar, eggs indirectly protect hair follicles from hormonal stress. This creates a more favorable internal environment where hair can grow thicker instead of gradually miniaturizing. Additionally, eggs support tissue repair. Hair follicles constantly undergo cycles of growth, rest, and renewal. This renewal process requires ongoing cellular repair, and protein is the foundation of that repair. When protein intake is inadequate, follicle regeneration slows down. Eggs provide the building blocks necessary for continuous renewal, allowing follicles to recover faster and produce healthier hair strands over time. What's important to understand is that hair growth is not immediate. The nutrients you consume today affect the hair that appears weeks or even months later. Eggs work quietly in the background, supplying the structural components needed for future growth. When consumed consistently, they help rebuild hair density gradually but noticeably. This is not a temporary boost. It's a foundational strategy that supports long-term hair health. Ultimately, eggs are not just food. They are information for your body. They tell your system that it has enough high-quality nutrients to invest in growth rather than survival. When the body feels safe and nourished, hair growth becomes a natural outcome rather than a struggle. One of the most common hidden reasons behind weak, thinning hair is a lack of specific micronutrients that directly control hair structure, and two of the most critical are biotin and sulfur. Eggs naturally contain both, and this combination is extremely difficult to replicate with supplements alone. Biotin plays a direct role in keratin synthesis, the primary protein that makes up each strand of hair. Without sufficient biotin, keratin production slows down and hair loses its strength, thickness, and resilience. This is why biotin deficiency often shows up first as hair thinning long before other symptoms appear. What makes biotin from eggs especially effective is its natural bioavailability. Synthetic biotin supplements often struggle with absorption, especially in people with digestive issues or insulin resistance. Eggs deliver biotin in a food-based form that your body recognizes and utilizes efficiently. Once absorbed, biotin activates key enzymes that support cellular energy production inside the hair follicle. Hair growth is an energy-intensive process, and when energy production drops, follicles shift into a resting phase. This is when shedding increases and regrowth slows. Eggs help prevent this metabolic slowdown at the follicle level. Sulfur is the other critical component that is often overlooked, yet it plays a structural role that cannot be replaced by vitamins alone. Hair strength depends heavily on sulfur bonds that hold keratin fibers together. These bonds give hair its durability, elasticity, and resistance to breakage. When sulfur intake is low, hair may continue to grow, but it grows fragile, thin, and prone to splitting. Eggs supply sulfur containing amino acids such as cysteine and methionine, which are essential for forming these bonds deep inside the hair shaft. What's particularly important is that sulfur works synergistically with biotin. Biotin may stimulate keratin production, but without sulfur, that keratin lacks structural integrity. Eggs provide both simultaneously, allowing the hair shaft to grow thicker rather than just longer. This is why people may notice improved hair texture, not just reduced shedding, when eggs are consumed consistently. Hair becomes more resistant to environmental stress, heat damage, and mechanical breakage. Sulfur also plays a detoxification role that indirectly affects hair growth. It supports the liver's ability to neutralize toxins, including excess hormones and metabolic waste that can interfere with hair follicle function. When detox pathways are sluggish, inflammation increases around the follicle, restricting nutrient delivery. Eggs help support sulfur-dependent detox processes, reducing this inflammatory burden and creating a cleaner internal environment for hair growth. Another overlooked factor is scalp health. Biotin and sulfur both contribute to healthy skin cell turnover. The scalp is skin, and when cell turnover is impaired, follicles can become clogged or inflamed. This disrupts the hair growth cycle and weakens follicle anchoring. Eggs help maintain balanced scalp regeneration, allowing follicles to remain open, nourished, and active. This supports stronger hair attachment and reduces excessive shedding. Stress also plays a role here. Chronic stress increases the demand for biotin and sulfur because stress accelerates nutrient depletion. When these nutrients are lacking, hair becomes one of the first tissues affected. Eggs help replenish these reserves efficiently, supporting both structural hair integrity and stress resilience at a cellular level. This dual benefit is one reason eggs are so effective for people experiencing stress-related hair loss. Over time, consistent intake of eggs helps rebuild sulfur reserves in the body, which is essential not only for hair, but for connective tissue and skin health as well. Hair responds slowly, but when the internal environment is corrected, follicles regain their ability to produce thicker strands. The improvement is gradual, yet deeply rooted because the nutrients are supporting the actual architecture of the hair rather than masking damage on the surface. Eggs work because they supply biotin and sulfur in the exact form and balance the body requires. This allows hair to grow with strength, density, and durability, reflecting internal nutritional sufficiency rather than temporary cosmetic improvement. Healthy hair growth always starts at the scalp. Yet this is the most ignored part of the process. Hair follicles are living, active structures embedded deep within the scalp, and their ability to produce strong hair depends entirely on the quality of the environment surrounding them. Eggs play a critical role here because they provide nutrients that directly nourish the scalp tissue and improve follicle function at a cellular level. When the scalp lacks proper nutrition, follicles weaken, blood flow declines, and hair growth becomes slower and thinner over time, regardless of genetics or age. One of the most important factors for follicle health is oxygen and nutrient delivery. Hair follicles require a constant supply of oxygen, rich blood to remain active. Eggs contain nutrients that support healthy red blood cell function and circulation, allowing oxygen and nutrients to reach the follicle efficiently. When circulation improves, follicles receive the fuel they need to stay in the growth phase longer. This is one reason people often notice reduced shedding and improved density when their internal nutrition improves, even without changing hair products. Eggs also support the structural integrity of the scalp itself. The scalp is skin, and like all skin, it constantly renews itself. Poor nutrient intake leads to impaired skin regeneration, dryness, inflammation, and buildup around hair follicles. This creates resistance at the follicle opening, interfering with normal hair emergence. The nutrients found in eggs help support healthy skin cell turnover, keeping the scalp flexible, hydrated, and receptive to hair growth rather than tight and inflamed. Another critical component is inflammation control. Low-grade inflammation around the hair follicle is one of the most common hidden drivers of hair thinning. This inflammation often goes unnoticed because it doesn't always cause pain or redness, yet it slowly disrupts follicle signaling and weakens hair anchoring. Eggs provide nutrients that support anti-inflammatory pathways and help stabilize immune responses in the scalp. When inflammation is reduced, follicles are able to function more efficiently and remain productive instead of entering premature resting phases. Hormonal sensitivity at the follicle level is another overlooked issue. Hair follicles respond to hormonal signals, and when these signals become distorted due to nutrient deficiencies, follicles begin to shrink. Eggs supply fat, soluble nutrients that support hormone signaling and cellular communication. This helps follicles interpret growth signals correctly instead of shutting down. The result is not just continued growth, but improved follicle resilience over time. Scalp hydration also plays a major role in hair strength. Dehydrated scalp tissue restricts nutrient flow and increases friction around the hair shaft. Eggs contribute to internal hydration balance by supporting healthy cell membranes and lipid layers in the skin. A well-hydrated scalp allows hair to emerge smoothly and reduces breakage at the root, which is often mistaken for shedding from the follicle itself. Another key factor is microbial balance on the scalp. An unhealthy scalp environment can encourage overgrowth of unwanted microbes, which can irritate follicles and disrupt growth cycles. Nutrients from eggs help support the body's natural defense mechanisms, maintaining a balanced scalp ecosystem. When this balance is restored, follicles are less stressed and more capable of sustained hair production. Eggs also support the regenerative capacity of hair follicles. Follicles are constantly cycling through growth, rest, and renewal phases. This renewal requires ongoing cellular repair and energy. The nutrients in eggs support mitochondrial function within follicle cells, providing the energy needed to regenerate efficiently. When energy production is strong, follicles recover faster and remain active longer. What makes this process so powerful is that it works from the inside out. Instead of forcing growth through external stimulation, eggs improve the internal conditions that hair follicles depend on. Over time, this creates a scalp environment that naturally favors thicker, stronger hair growth. The change is subtle at first, but as follicle health improves, hair quality follows. Hair thinning is very often a hormonal issue before it is a genetic one. And this is where nutrition becomes extremely powerful. Hormones act as messengers that tell hair follicles whether to grow, rest, or shut down. When these signals become distorted, hair follicles gradually shrink and produce thinner strands. Eggs support hormonal balance in a very unique way because they provide both the nutrients and the healthy fats required for proper hormone production and regulation. Without these raw materials, the body struggles to maintain stable hormonal signaling, and hair growth becomes one of the first processes to suffer. One of the most influential hormones affecting hair is insulin. Chronically elevated insulin levels interfere with nutrient delivery to the hair follicle and increase inflammatory signals around it. This creates an internal environment where hair growth is no longer a priority. Eggs help stabilize blood sugar by providing protein and fat that slow glucose absorption and reduce insulin spikes. When insulin levels remain stable, follicles receive consistent nourishment rather than being exposed to repeated metabolic stress that weakens their function over time. Stress hormones also play a major role in hair loss. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, directly suppresses hair growth by pushing follicles out of the growth phase prematurely. High cortisol levels also deplete key nutrients needed for hair strength and regeneration. Eggs provide nutrients that support the adrenal system and help the body adapt to stress more efficiently. When stress resilience improves, cortisol becomes more balanced, and hair follicles are no longer constantly signaled to shut down. Another important hormonal factor is thyroid function. The thyroid regulates metabolic speed, including how quickly hair follicles produce new cells. Even mild thyroid inefficiency can slow hair growth and increase shedding. Eggs contain nutrients that support thyroid hormone activation and cellular sensitivity. This helps ensure that hair follicles receive clear metabolic signals instead of sluggish or confusing instructions that impair growth. Sex hormones also influence hair density and strength. Imbalances in androgens can contribute to follicle miniaturization, particularly when combined with insulin resistance. Eggs provide cholesterol, which is not harmful in this context, but essential as it is the building block for all steroid hormones. When the body lacks adequate cholesterol from whole foods, hormone production becomes erratic. Eggs supply cholesterol in a form that supports hormonal stability rather than disruption. Eggs also help reduce inflammation driven by hormonal imbalance. Inflammation interferes with hormone receptor sensitivity, meaning that even normal hormone levels may not be interpreted correctly by hair follicles. The nutrients in eggs support anti-inflammatory pathways and improve cellular communication. This allows follicles to respond appropriately to growth signals instead of remaining stuck in a defensive, low activity state. What makes this particularly important is that hormonal hair loss rarely happens overnight. It develops slowly as imbalances accumulate. By the time thinning becomes visible, the hormonal environment has already been compromised for some time. Eggs work gradually to restore balance by addressing the underlying metabolic and nutritional stressors that disrupt hormone signaling. This creates conditions where hair follicles can recover rather than continue shrinking. Another subtle benefit is that balanced hormones improve sleep quality. Poor sleep elevates cortisol and disrupts insulin sensitivity, both of which negatively affect hair growth. Eggs support neurotransmitter balance and nutrient replenishment that contribute to deeper, more restorative sleep. Better sleep reinforces hormonal stability, creating a positive cycle that further supports hair regeneration. Over time, when hormones stabilize hair, follicles regain their ability to remain in the growth phase longer. Hair strands become thicker, stronger, and more resilient, not because the follicles are being forced to grow, but because the internal signals finally allow them to do what they are designed to do. Eggs support this process quietly and efficiently by restoring hormonal harmony at the foundation level. One of the biggest misunderstandings about hair growth is the expectation of instant results. Hair is not a fast responding tissue. It reflects long-term internal conditions rather than short-term changes. What you eat today influences the hair that appears weeks or even months later. This is why consistency becomes the defining factor in achieving thicker, stronger hair. Eggs work best not as a one-time addition, but as a regular part of nutrition that steadily supplies the body with the raw materials needed for ongoing hair regeneration. Hair follicles operate on a cycle, moving through growth, transition, and rest phases. If the body receives nutrients inconsistently, follicles struggle to remain in the growth phase. They may start growing hair, but fail to sustain it, leading to increased shedding and thinner strands. Regular consumption of eggs provides a continuous supply of protein, essential amino acids, vitamins, and fats that help keep follicles active and productive. This steady input signals to the body that resources are available, allowing hair growth to remain a priority rather than being paused during periods of nutritional stress. Another important factor is nutrient storage. Many nutrients involved in hair growth, such as biotin sulfur-containing amino acids and fat-soluble vitamins, need time to accumulate and reach functional levels in tissues. 1 or 2 servings will not correct long-standing deficiencies. Eggs contribute gradually to replenishing these reserves, allowing the body to rebuild internal balance. As nutrient stores improve, hair follicles become more resilient and less prone to stress-related shutdown. Consistency also reduces fluctuations in blood sugar and hormones, which directly affect hair growth cycles. Irregular eating patterns or nutrient gaps can trigger hormonal instability that disrupts follicle signaling. Eggs, when eaten regularly, help stabilize these systems by providing reliable nourishment. This creates a predictable internal environment where follicles can function optimally instead of constantly adapting to metabolic stress. Another overlooked aspect is cellular adaptation. Hair follicles respond to repeated signals over time. When the body consistently receives high-quality nutrition, follicle cells adjust their activity accordingly. They increase protein synthesis, improve energy production, and strengthen structural components. This adaptation does not occur with sporadic intake. Eggs provide the repeated signal necessary for follicles to upregulate growth, related processes, and maintain them long term. Consistency also supports recovery from damage. Hair follicles are exposed to oxidative stress, inflammation, and environmental toxins on a daily basis. Repair mechanisms rely on a constant supply of nutrients. When intake is inconsistent, repair lags behind damage, leading to gradual follicle weakening. Regular egg consumption supports ongoing repair, allowing follicles to recover before damage accumulates to the point of visible thinning. Another key point is expectation management. Hair growth improvements often begin internally before becoming visible externally. Reduced shedding, improved texture, and stronger strands at the root occur first. Visible density follows later. People who remain consistent allow these internal changes to fully develop, while those who stop early often miss the most noticeable benefits. Eggs support this slow but meaningful transformation by reinforcing the biological processes that govern hair production. Consistency also strengthens other systems that indirectly affect hair, such as digestion, stress response, and sleep quality. When these systems function well, nutrient absorption improves and hormonal balance stabilizes. This creates a supportive foundation for hair growth that goes beyond any single nutrient. Eggs contribute to this foundation by offering a broad spectrum of supportive compounds in a single simple food. Over time, the cumulative effect of consistent nutrition becomes evident. Hair strands grow thicker, shedding decreases, and overall hair quality improves. This is not the result of stimulation or surface treatment, but of sustained internal support. Eggs serve as a reliable nutritional anchor, reinforcing the message that the body has what it needs to grow strong hair without